Hi everyone. If you are hearing the music in the background and think that you accidentally clicked on the Germany video, you are actually mistaken. So I learned something recently. After posting my German strategy video, historical strategy video, a commenter mentioned that they really enjoyed having the Austro-Hungarian national anthem playing in the background. And I thought to myself, wait, no, you're mistaken. I am playing the German national anthem. Well, I did a little bit of research on that and discovered that the Austro-Hungarian national anthem, the tune for it is identical to the tune of the German national anthem. The words are different, but since I don't have anybody singing, it's just the tune of it, they are going to sound exactly identical. So this is going to be the Austro-Hungarian historical strategy look here. And so you'll see that I have them set up on the board. And just to give credit, excuse me, credit where credit is due, there is a YouTube channel. It's called, fittingly, The Great War, run by people that I do not know. I believe they are located out in Europe. And back in August 2014, they started a series where they would look at what was going on in World War I exactly 100 years prior to that week. And so I became aware of this channel maybe about a year or so ago, and I've been keeping up on it. And so every week they have a new video. They also have videos where they answer people's questions, or they might profile specific people. They did a special on Rommel, just for as example. I know they've done profiles of other prominent figures as well. I know they also did a video on Portugal during World War I, so they do things like that. And so much of what I'm going to share with you today and demonstrate on this map does come from a video that they made very early in their series, where they were talking about the different countries and their mobilization efforts and different issues they ran into. They do have an episode on the Schlieffen Plan. I did not look at that in great detail. I've watched it before, and so some of what they said I've integrated, not on purpose necessarily, but just as part of my general knowledge did come from that. But I'm going to be relying much heavier on their episode for Austria-Hungary. So let's go ahead and get started. So Austria-Hungary was allied with Germany. At this point, Italy was at least expected to stay neutral. Technically, they were allied with Germany and Austria, but I believe they declared neutrality pretty early, and we know later they would join the Allies, but at this point they are not considered a factor. Austria has Germany up here as an ally. It has Russia, which is an enemy, and of course it has Serbia. Now, there are several things that are coming into play, and they are going to be to the detriment of Austria, some of which are their own fault, and some of which perhaps not directly the fault of someone, but just the result of longer-term mismanagement. So what I have set up here, we've got units in Serbia. We have units spread out all over Austria-Hungary, and the reason for this, or one of the reasons, is that, it's a very big empire. Their manpower is going to be spread out, and they are a very multi-national, multicultural country. So you've got the Austrians, you've got the Czechs, you've got the Slavs, Bosnians over here, you've got the Hungarians, and they are all together in this empire, and they get along well enough, but they also have their own distinct culture and the way they want to do things. And so you have the rail system in Austria-Hungary, but when you cross from one subgroup to another, or sub-region to another, the gauge on the railroad might change. And so you have to slow down, make certain adjustments, and then get going. Or a train line might end. So you traveled so far on that train, then you had to stop, pack up everything, move to another train line, continue on your way. Not very conducive for large-scale, quick mobilization. In addition to that, it's very difficult to, once troops are headed in a direction, to turn them around. And so what ended up happening is war with Serbia, for obvious reasons, was very popular in Austria. Not as popular going after Russia, but hey, they're an enemy. It's war. You're going to have to go after them. So what the Austrians ended up doing was saying, we really want to stick it to Austria. So we're gonna, again, remember Italy's not a factor. We're gonna move all these guys down here because we're gonna go after Serbia. And in fact, let's just leave some a token force up here, and we're gonna move everything. We're really gonna take out Austria. And so our divisions are moving really slowly, and they're all moving in the same direction. And then suddenly Germany hears that Austria does not have as many guys up here. Austria had assumed that Germany would cover the flank with Russia. Well, as we know from the German video, the Germans needed to take out France quickly, and so they did not have the forces over here. They were counting on Austria to deal with Russia until they took out France. So there was a lot of miscommunication there, and as you can imagine, the Germans were none too pleased about it. Now, to add insult to injury, because of the rail system, when the Germans, made the request, hey, can you please send some forces up here to deal with our much larger enemy, the Austrians basically had to wait for the troops to get down here so that they could then be diverted up here. Again, because of the way that the rail system worked, you couldn't just turn some units around because of all the stops and checkpoints and moving from one rail to another. It just wasn't practical. So you basically had to make the longest trip possible to swing back up here, because the Germans and the Austrians didn't coordinate, and the Austrians, rather than put a bunch of units or a bunch of divisions up against Russia, decided they really wanted to stick it to Serbia and plow in here. And it took them several attempts to really take out Serbia. For one, the Austrians hadn't really fought a major war since, I believe, the Austro-Prussian War in the 1860s. So this is not quite 50 years later. That they haven't fought a major war in decades. The Serbs had been fighting the Balkan Wars, over the last few years, so they were much more used to modern technology in war. They did have a much smaller army, but they were fighting on their home territory, so they know the ground a lot better. Mountainous terrain where numbers don't matter as much, and so they really gave the Austrians a run for their money. This single invasion was not entirely successful. I want to say from memory that it took them 3 attempts, stretching into at least 1915, in order for them to take out this little tiny country. So Austria had some problems, we'll say, and they didn't coordinate well with the Germans because each side assumed the other one was going to cover the flank with Russia, and the infrastructure of Austria did not make it particularly easy to turn some of their troops around and head them back towards Russia. Now, Austria, the more I learn about their military, the less impressed I am, and I don't want to go too far into that, but they had quite a bit of trouble with the Russians. They kind of stalemated the Italians. It took them multiple attempts to take out Serbia. So I find that frequently Germany is called upon, just like they were called upon to help Italy out in World War II. They are called upon frequently in World War I to kind of bail Austria out of trouble. But that's what happens sometimes. I've heard Austria referred to as the sick man of mainland Europe, whereas the Ottomans are the sick man of Europe, you know, extending beyond just mainland Europe there. And from what I understand about Austria-Hungary's performance during World War I would tend to agree with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Got good feedback about the first one, so this is a series that I think I'm going to pursue. I'm not sure which country I'm going to go with next. I do know a little bit about France's strategy, and a little bit about Italy's as well, so I might go one of those directions. But we'll see. Alright, hope you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment if you did. If you have a request for which country you'd like me to do next, leave that there, and I'll keep that in mind. Thanks, everybody.